seconds here and there. Not exactly what I want to do with my programming choices here, but I think we're good to go. So I'll just say, hi, I'm Trevor, and welcome to Catching Up on Cinema. If you aren't familiar with the program, Catching Up on Cinema is a film analysis podcast wherein we introduce each other to films, expand our cinematic horizons, and, in essence, catch up on our cinema. So it is the month of November 2023, and it is once again that very special time of the month wherein we do our very special Tales from the Shelf episode. And in joining me in this endeavor, I have my good buddy Brad from the Cinema Speak podcast. How's it going, Brad?
It's great to be back. It's going well. Let's just say it's going swell. It's even better than well. Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, always glad to have you, Brad. If you're not familiar with the show format here, folks, a Tales from the Shelf episode is essentially where Brad and I, who of course is from the Cinema Speak podcast, a movie review podcast, I as well do a movie review podcast. Check it out, please. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. As you may have noticed in the background of both of our webcam feeds here, we both have pretty expansive physical media collections. So that would be DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4K discs. And basically, these monthly episodes are our excuse to share stories about our collecting endeavors. I often find that people who are not hoarders often have stories associated with the things that they choose to bring into their home. And so the theme for this month is a little something that I've dubbed partner picks. We like to do alliterative titles here. So the gimmick this month, and we always have a gimmick, is that both Brad and I have significant others in the form of girlfriends. And today we're going to be talking about movies from our collections that we would like to, meaning have not already, would like to share with our significant others. Some movies in our collections that we'd like to share with our girlfriends. So Brad, I figure, like, normally this is the part of the show, folks, where I toss Brad under the bus and ask him to share his first pick. But I'd like to just, like, slow things down for a second and maybe start things off by just, like, talking about our respective girlfriends' tastes in movies, or at least our perception of their tastes in movies, being as they're not here to speak for themselves. So I'm going to toss you under the bus anyway, Brad, and ask, your significant other, what kinds of movies do you think they gravitate to? What do you think they're about when it comes to movies?
Oh, she's a big cinephile. She watches a lot of like Tarkovsky flicks, a lot of Bergman, that kind of thing. No, I'm joking. But no, I guess, like, she likes a lot of, stereotypical chick flicks, but in terms of the stuff that we like to watch together, um, generally like, thrillers, whodunits, murder mysteries, those kind of things are more the stuff that we really like. I mean, she's really big into Disney films. That's kind of the main one, I guess I should lead off with. Which, I like Disney to some extent, and she definitely likes it more than me. But yeah, when I think of like the stuff where it's like stuff that she hasn't seen that I want to show her, it's kind of stuff in that vein. Like, if it's in like the vein of like the Scream or something like that, or a while ago, I forget what kicked it off, but we did a little bit of a like in the mid 2000s there was like a run of movies kind of like just like thrillers sort of on the edge of horror, like there was, I think we did Joyride, Vacancy, A Perfect Getaway, these movies that kind of generally have some kind of twist at the end, and that kind of stuff is the stuff where it's like if I watch one of those movies, my gosh, she would love to watch that.
Ah, gotcha. It sounds like there's a decent amount of we got a chatbot ad here. That's lovely. It is a live stream, folks, if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast. But yeah, we definitely have a bot in the chat here. We'll just go ahead and ignore that. So it sounds like there's actually a decent amount of like crossover between your gal and my gal's tastes in movies. Not so much in terms of the Disney stuff, but the whodunit, the thriller aspect of things. my girlfriend's very much into whodunits and like any sort of like mystery box kind of structured program. In particular, show format is something that
Yeah.
works for her. She has a strong preference for shows over movies. Um, it's the kind of thing where narrative and character are her primary motivators when it comes to engaging with media. Is if it has a strong narrative and characters that she can really sink her teeth into and really get swept up in, that's what really drives her. And a show format just offers her more time essentially to spend with those characters. And sometimes that creates conflicts where it's like, if she doesn't like the characters, like there's an increasing trend in movies where we have a lot of unlikable protagonists these days, and I think it's made things kind of difficult for her to like find movies that appeal to her because oftentimes she likes to like her characters. Um, but on top of that, as you said, chick flicks, rom coms. She's into that. The trashier, the better. All those Christmas Netflix shows, she watches them. She hate watches them. Um, Musicals as well. She is a trained singer, so that's always going to be a thing for her. And sci-fi also. She really
Hmm.
bites hard for sci-fi. Um,
Interesting.
both of the Star Warsian, like more fantasy variety, but also hard sci-fi. Like The Expanse was a show that she really liked. And also, I didn't watch it with her because she blew through it so fucking fast that I couldn't even get to it. Severance. She was really into
Hmm.
Severance, which, from what I understand, has some sci-fi elements and has some mystery box kind of stuff. It has a compelling mystery that like pulls you
Hmm.
along throughout the whole thing. So it checked a lot of boxes for her. But yeah, I guess that kind of sets the stage for who we're picking for essentially. So now, Brad, for the second time on the same episode, I'm going to toss you under the bus again and ask, what's going to be your first partner pick?
Well, I'm gonna go and do the all that stuff I said about what she likes. This is the exact opposite of that. So for my
Yeah.
first pick, just ignore everything I just said. Reason I'm pulling off this first pick is because there's a kind of funny backstory to it involving not my current girlfriend, but an ex. There's a bit of a story involving an ex-girlfriend on this one. So the movie in question is the movie Compliance, which
Okay.
is inspired by true events. Now, so let me set the stage for this. Now, this movie is not a fun watch. It is a very disturbing true story involving sexual assault and just not a fun Sunday afternoon kind of watch. Like, you really got to be in the right mood for it. Well, picture this. I'm in college, freshman year of college. I had not seen this. Was the first time watch. I'm in college watching this. I'd heard it got good reviews. It was made by the guy who did homestarrunner.com. I said, "All right, I'm in. Let's do it." Um and I'm in my dorm room watching this movie, and my ex-girlfriend, my girlfriend at the time, she walks in, maybe 20 minutes in the movie. She's like, "Oh, are you watching a movie?" I go, "Yeah, it's Compliance." She goes, "Okay, all right." And sits down. I'm like, "Yeah, join me. We'll watch this movie." And I mean, I kind of knew what it was about, but not like totally. Let's just say about 45 to maybe 50 minutes into the movie, she gets up and sprints out of the dorm room, basically with tears in her eyes.
Oh shit.
And of course, I finished the movie. I'm like, I'll deal with that later. Finished the movie, and at the time, I think I was able to text. Yeah, I had texting. It was, it wasn't that long ago.
Wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't that
Jesus,
long
Brad.
ago. But I say, "Oh, hey, the movie's over. What's up? Why'd you rush out in the middle there?" And I think I meet up in person, and she's just like, clearly this was early in the relationship. She goes like, "I had no idea you liked those kind of movies." I'm like, "Well, I mean, listen, I mean, if you can't, I mean, Compliance is a very fucked up movie, and it's very dark and disturbing. But like, listen, if you can't handle that, then you better cut line and cut hook line and what's the cut hook line and bait? What's the phrase? Cut your bait and cut the
Yeah,
hook.
is it fish or cut bait?
But yeah, you're done fishing. Cut your bait because yeah, there's no way you're gonna survive Ebola syndrome if you can't handle this. Come on now. So that's just always a funny story, and it's the bit of a thing where it's like, okay, obviously, like I'm not gonna be obviously back then I wouldn't have been like, hey, it's date night. You want to watch Compliance? Like, obviously, but she walked into the middle of it when I was, hey, what am I supposed to do? Say, get the hell out of here. So it just and not that I think Lizzie would like this movie, although it is a bit of a true crime kind of thing. So actually, maybe she wouldn't hate it. But yeah, it's for those that don't know, it's about basically it tells the story of a prank caller who called this fast food restaurant and basically said he was a police officer and said that one of the employees stole and basically like tells the manager to lock her up in a room, and he goes through this whole thing including like having her stripped down because he says that she has money on her that she stole, and the whole thing is the manager goes with it even though it's just a guy on a phone, a prank caller. He's not a real cop. So it's the kind of thing of like, how far would you go without questioning authority sort of thing. And it's the kind of movie where watching it the first time again, I kind of knew the premise, but I didn't know how far it would go. Like, you're watching this movie, and I was personally thinking, like, okay, this is where they stop the real story and they exaggerate it. This is where it goes, okay, this obviously didn't happen. And then you get to the end of the movie and you look it up and it's like, no, everything in this movie, as unbelievable as it is, did happen, which is insane. So yeah, it's a really dark cautionary tale sort of thing. And I think it's well performed. I like the direction. It really gets under your skin. And yeah, I don't know if I would ever show it to my girlfriend, but just in terms of just being curious how she would react if she would run out of the room crying. I would just be curious in that regard. So yeah, Compliance. Maybe someday we'll cross it off the list.
Holy shit. It was not meant to be. So first question is, what's the name of the director? Because you did mention that they did Homestar Runner, which I was alive back then. I'm
Yeah.
familiar, but what's the fellow's or person's name?
Craig Zobel,
Craig Zobel.
which
And do you know if they've done other things?
yeah, he did The Hunt, the Damon
Oh,
Lindelof, yeah, which
yeah,
I
yeah.
quite liked. And he did another movie that I wasn't a fan of, but he worked on The Leftovers, the Damon Lindelof show. So I quite like this guy. He's not like he hasn't done a ton of work, but this and The Hunt, I both really enjoy those. So yeah, I think he's a pretty interesting filmmaker, and I'll always be curious to check out his stuff.
Yeah, I had not heard of Compliance, but now I'm kind of intrigued. Like, I'm curious what sort of things happen in this movie that somebody would say that to you after having watched only a few minutes of it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a point where you'd probably get to the part of the movie and you'd be like, "Yeah, that's where she ran out." Okay, yeah, and yeah, that about checks.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and I'm very intrigued. And also, like, I agree, The Hunt was actually a pretty solid movie. Like, it clearly low budget, but like they clearly had an agenda with what they were trying to accomplish with some of the allegory and with some of the writing that was going on in there. Decent violence and action as well. Um, Betty Gilpin is that the actress's name that headlines that one?
yep, yep.
She's really good. I I've been like I've noticed her in at least a couple of roles here and there. Like even Stuber, she's in it for like a couple minutes here and there, but she kind of stands out. So I was very impressed with what she did in The Hunt, though, because that was a really unconventional performance in a movie that probably didn't necessarily like the movie didn't even need that, but her whatever she chose to do with that character really added a lot to it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'll have to look this fella up, see what else he's done, because
He
I had
also I
no
just
idea that that was his background.
Yeah, and I just looked him up. He also directed, I forgot about this, all the episodes of the miniseries, with Kate Winslet, Mayor of Easttown, which is kind of a detective sort of, mystery miniseries, that was on HBO a couple of years ago, and I watched that. I thought that was good as well. So, yeah, I like him. I mean, he's only done a few films, but even when he's working in TV, he definitely, generally seems to elevate the material. Yeah, this was kind of the first one other than Homestar Runner, of course. This was the first one where I really saw him.
Yeah, I didn't know Mayor of Easttown was something he'd done, but you did mention Damon Lindelof. He's done some collaborations with, like plural, like more than
Yeah.
one. Uh, that
Mhm.
that's a good thing. That's a good name to have on your resume,
Yeah.
especially in TV and stuff. But Mayor of Easttown, I always think of as that show that made everybody made a trend of people talking like my dad and his niece, like the accent
Yeah.
that was in that show, like highlighted quite a lot in that show, was kind of a meme for a while, and I was like, they just sound like my they just sound like my relatives. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Didn't watch it myself, but I do remember it made a big splash. But yeah, I'll have to check that one out. Kind of seems neat. To
Mhm.
me anyway. It probably sounds like a nightmare to a lot of other people.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so my first pick here. I don't have any fucked up shit, Brad. Uh, I don't. I'm not. I know my limits when it comes to what I can and cannot show to the girlfriend. Like I
I
actually
I
got
like to
away.
push the limits. I like to push the limits.
You're an instigator, Brad.
Yeah, yeah.
You're Woody fucking Woodpecker.
Yep, yep.
Brad is a meddler. He's a noodler. He's gonna
Yeah.
poke you. That's what he does. Uh, but I do have limitations. Like I actually got away with some stuff early on in the relationship. Like I did sit the girlfriend down and make her watch The Thing during the
Mm.
winter time pretty early on, and she was kind of okay with it. Like Aliens and Alien was, she loved Alien. Aliens had a couple of jump scares that she's still upset with me about. She's like, that was not cool. I'm like, wasn't that scary? She's like, no, the timing was not cool. I was very comfortable, and then the movie didn't let me be comfortable. I was
Mm.
very upset about it. So, in general, scary movies are kind of off the table. I've just kind of given up trying to make that work. So what I do have though here, this is the fun part of the show, folks, is where we kind of bounce the ball back and forth and try to kind of like make a sensible transition. I just disclosed that I don't have a sensible transition, so I'm gonna fabricate one on the fly here. You mentioned college, so I have here a Blu-ray in my hand from looks like they self-published it. That's pretty cool. So I have here a Blu-ray in my hand from a filmmaker that I went to college with, and I've talked about this before with Brad, but that was probably a long time ago. So we're gonna do it all over again. You can walk away for a bit, go get some coffee or something. So yeah, this is a feature film that was directed by a friend of mine who I saw in Portland not that long ago, by the name of Sean Parker, and it was co-directed by him and his buddy Austin Hillebrecht. And this is Coup de Cinema. And this was put out by Hapstance Films. You can see that up there, Hapstance Films Production. That is the name of their company, essentially. And it had origins as like an online only kind of thing, but they have grown quite a lot. Austin and Sean both work in the film industry, but they have a really, really big project that they're currently working on called Fogtown. You can look it up on social media or go directly to the website right now. Just look up Fogtown, and it's like a Sherlock Holmesian kind of farcical detective show shot with like puppets, uh, like lovingly handcrafted puppets, shot on the volume, meaning the same technology that they use to shoot The Mandalorian. So they're using CGI constructed digital sets, which move in time with live camera movements. So basically, the sets and the props are largely constructed like photorealistically in CGI, and then the characters are hand puppeteered live in front of the camera from shot to shot. I They've been documenting the process of filming this thing very extensively. I think they have the blessing of the city of Portland to work on the show. It's a big deal. Actually, was I was like scheduled to actually do some puppeteering, but unfortunately, they had like one of the puppets died. Like I think the head literally came off.
Oh,
So
jeez.
I did get to see my buddy. Thankfully, I got to see Sean Parker. We got to hang out for a bit. You got to meet the girlfriend actually. Connections, revolutions. Speaking of partners, he got to meet her for the first time, or not. No, it's a lie. Second time. But anyway, we got to hang out. I didn't get to do any puppeteering or anything. But yeah, this movie he made in 2014 is when it was released, but obviously it was being filmed and post production was being done prior, like at least a year, maybe probably more prior to that. I did walk in on the filming of it at least once, where I was just like, "Hey man, you want to hang out?" And he's like, like busy like directing a set, and I'm like, "Hey man, I'm going to the cafeteria. You want to hang out, man?" Because it was like post college years, and I still had pretty strong ties to the campus where he was. They have a studio, uh, like a news studio essentially, that has a massive green screen that he was utilizing for filming certain scenes in this film. So he was still filming on the campus, even though he wasn't still attending the college, basically. So I still was living in the neighboring area, so occasionally I had to just like show up on the campus. But yeah, this movie's a lot of fun. The title comes from it's kind of like a heist film, but it's a heist of a movie production. So it's basically a frustrated young aspiring filmmaker gets involved with like a trauma esque, like kind of apathetic, not so great. Like they don't have it together. Like they're kind of all out of sorts film production company. And everybody's kind of apathetic and worn out. And then this plucky young guy shows up and he's like, I want to make pictures. I want to make actual movies. So he takes it upon himself to convince like the crew members and the actors and everybody to come in and like reshoot the dailies in the evening hours. So basically, they're remaking the film parallel to the making of a shitty film.
Mm.
So it's a heist of a film production essentially. Um, and they get into all sorts of shenanigans and stuff. It's very lively. It's very fun. And for me, of course, obviously, carries a lot of personal novelty factor in the fact that it's like, my friend made it, and I when he shows up for a director cameo, I know who he is. Like it's not just some random bystander or something. And the star of the movie, Austin, was best man at his wedding. They were like best buddies. I've hung out with him a little bit. We've talked. Like it's really cool seeing him headline the fucking film. He is a very talented actor. Um, but yeah, this is I don't know how widely available this Blu-ray is. I basically just said, "Hey, that movie you made that I saw a while back, can I have it in some way?" And he was like, "Yeah, just shoot me a couple bucks and I'll print you a disc." I was like, "Okay." So now I get to say that I'm a proud owner of a movie that my friend made, and I've watched it a handful of times. I reviewed it back in the day, and yeah, it's just a cool thing that it's kind of neat, like knowing that people around me do things like that, and now it's on my shelf.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a cool premise. I do love the premise. I know you've told me about it before. Do you know, is that available to rent, or is it like on Prime at all, or like if there is a way to watch it other than the rare Blu-ray that someone would have to steal from your collection?
Oh wow, it is available on Amazon Prime at the very least. You can rent it, and let me see, can you purchase it? Yeah, you can rent and purchase
Mm,
digitally via Amazon Prime.
nice.
Yeah, so it is widely available. You just have to look for it.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah. Has he worked on anything since then, or I'm trying to remember if you talked about it.
He has been doing production work, so not like directing, as far as I know. But he's been doing a lot of shorts for like their YouTube series and stuff. Some really high quality short films. One of my favorite ones is one that he made. Um, it was basically inspired from a really antagonistic like Reddit thread where somebody was attacking him on Reddit like ultra aggressively.
Mm.
It turned into this like bizarre, like lengthy back and forth between him and this random stranger on the internet, and it turned into this saga. And it was inspiring to him. Not actually, it was inspiring on a variety of levels because apparently he was actually legitimately in kind of a creative rut at the time or something.
Mhm.
And kind of that little jolt to his system kind of got everything firing, got those synapses firing again. And he was like, yeah, I think I need to make a thing out of this. Like, and so he made a short little film out of it. It's actually really neat. Like it's really snappy. It has a lot of great humor to it, and that's kind of one of his trademarks.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, he's a working filmmaker for sure. I'm sure you can look him up on IMDb and just find his credits. Austin actually uh, has done a fair amount of acting. He does a lot of motion graphics and a lot of graphic work like animation and such. Um, he's actually on think an episode or two of Grimm, that
Mm.
show from back in the fantasy
Oh,
show
yeah.
from back in the day. It was filmed in Portland, and I remember it just so happened that the girlfriend was watching all of that show, and then I walked into the room and I was like, "Hey, I know that guy." I mean, I knew he was in the show, but just the timing was kind of beautiful because she just happened to be watching the episode that he was in, and I was like, "Hey, what up?"
That's cool. Do you know, is Sean Parker, is that his name?
Yeah,
Is he on Letterboxd? He's gotta join all the other filmmakers on there, like, Mike Flanagan's on there now, Scorsese's on there.
I actually haven't looked him up to see if he's on Letterbox, but I'll have to poke him about that because I mean, really, that's something that most film enthusiasts should have. Like,
Yeah.
I would love to convince Kyle to get that someday because I'm sure he has thoughts that he'd like to get out into the
Oh,
world
yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah,
But
you need to get
he's
Trevor.
largely averse to being on social media in any form, and that includes
Yeah.
Letterboxd.
I mean, the great thing with Letterboxd is if you want it just for yourself, you can make your account as you can not follow anyone, you can have nobody follow you, I mean, you can just use it for yourself. I mean, that's what's great about it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, I did see that Mike Flanagan did start an account, and I think he was tossing some shade at Netflix about what was it, Midnight Mass still hasn't, like, it's not on the docket to be ever released in a physical format, and it's kind of grating on him.
yeah, I don't know if that's why he's, leaving Netflix. His next project is with, Amazon, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but, he's a big physical media guy, which is cool, but you gotta be careful when you're a filmmaker who joins Letterboxd. First of all, do not review and log. Well, first of all, certainly I would say don't review it, don't log it, but above all, please do not rate it. Ugh, that is gross. When I've seen there's some filmmakers, not to point names, but I want to say the guys who did Becky, the one guy I follow him, I think he rated his movie 5 stars. Not a fan.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a faux pas. That's just
yeah,
not done.
yeah. Um,
That's
Also,
tacky.
that I'm actually surprised because a lot of filmmakers on Letterboxd, like, they don't do star ratings because, if you're in the industry, like, it'd be a little tacky to say, like, "Ah, my coworker like, this person I work with, it's only a 2.5 for their project." So I get that, but, the guy who directed Becky, he calls it like he sees it, like, he I don't know if he's just not big enough yet, like, I feel like if he got any bigger, he'd be like, "Alright, maybe he'd cool it," but, yeah, some of the ratings and reviews he gives, I'm like, "Yikes."
He's gonna go to see Jason Blum someday, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, but it appears that you downvoted our pool horror movie that's coming out very soon that I can't remember the name of."
Yeah, Night Swim, I think?
Night Swim. I sent Brad the trailer to Night Swim because it looks looks so shit. I was like, "What is this? What is this concept?" Ah, shit. But yeah, that if I was currently working in the industry, if I was a working professional in that industry, yeah, I don't think I would want to do star ratings. Just to secure my future in said industry.
Like, I mean, I love the guy. I do really like the guy there.
Yeah, yeah.
I liked Becky, great guy, and I'm not even gonna call him out by name, but,
The
he
Becky guy.
he he yeah, the Becky guy logged, A Haunting in Venice, the Kenneth Branagh film, 1 star. He gave it 1 star.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah. Like, that's harsh not even being in the industry. Like, buddy, you better hope Kenneth Branagh doesn't, you never get in you never try and cast him in one of your movies because he's gonna come down on you. Good luck.
1 star. This guy's out of control.
Yeah, like, I saw that, I'm like, "Holy fuck." Like, so, yeah,
Okay. Well,
very
that's
strange.
enough out of me and my ultra indie movie. Brad, what is your next partner pick?
Alright, this next one, let's go with, this one's a little bit of a gray area because so it's kind of a whole franchise, and the gray area is that she's watched bits and pieces of this franchise. And let's not delay this any further. It's the Child's Play franchise, Chucky, the Chucky franchise. Now watched this franchise front to back, the movies, last year, and, I kinda just was watching them without her, but she'd be in the room and she'd watch some of them and, she'd pick up here or there. Um, but then I started watching the Chucky TV series, and this just might go along with, how, some people prefer the series format, but, she started watching the TV series with me, and she actually got hooked in it. And she actually now that's one of the shows we watch. She loves the Chucky show. She's a huge fan. So we want to go back and have her watch all the Child's Play movies from the beginning. Here I've got 1, 2, and 3 on 4K. Um, and I don't remember if she saw any. I think I remember specifically her watching a little bit of 3. I think maybe she watched some of 1. But I know Bride of Chucky and I think Seed of Chucky she didn't see anything of. So we'd be watching the show and I'd be giving her like because what I love about the Chucky TV series is that it does not like hold your hand. Like it makes many references to the long running franchise. Like there are minor characters who pop up and it's like if you didn't remember who that character was from Seed of Chucky. It's like they like yeah, I like that. I like that about it. Like they really don't give a shit. Like they're like you can keep up with this or not. Um so like in the season 2 of the Chucky show, the child that Chucky and Tiffany have together, or I should say the children, because at the end of Seed of Chucky, they split off into male and female counterpart. It just gets very, very complicated. There's a lot of lore, but yeah, we love the show, and it's a franchise. I like the franchise overall, so I would definitely go back and revisit these with her, especially having continued to watch the show, which has done a good job of bringing in past characters from the franchise.
Yeah, no, it has a very strong fan base. I don't know how large the fan base is, but it has some like very vocal devotees. Like Chucky has fans for sure.
Mhm.
Um, and for me personally, like I actually haven't seen that much of it. By the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't point out, Brad, your Chucky costume this year was fantastic. You did a
Yeah.
bang up
Thank
job.
you. Thank you.
You and the missus. The
Mhm.
Mithrigan costume
Yeah.
paired with the killer doll duo
Yep.
was very well executed.
Yep.
But yeah, as for myself and like my connection to the Child's Play movies, I think I've only seen the first 2 front to back. I've seen snippets of 3. I remember being underwhelmed by what little I did see of that one, but when it starts to get especially funky, like Bride of Chucky on and whatnot, I haven't even touched it really. But I have heard there's not like a huge drop off in quality. Like even like the later sequels still have a charm to them. They still have something to it, and then they keep it like in the family by having, was it Brad Dourif's like actual daughter involved in the series.
Yeah,
Um,
she is great, and I mean
that's
that
what
in
I've
the
heard.
joking way and in the, like, legit way. Like, she is like, when she pops up in the franchise, it's kinda like a breath of fresh air. She's awesome.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, I've heard she's great in a variety of ways. Um, but on top of that, it also holds the distinction as being like this beloved horror franchise that's kind of one of the few actually that has a shepherd. Like there's one creative voice that kind of has been guiding it from day one and continues to this day, as far as I understand. I don't. Is it Don Mancini or Mancini or something? What's their
Yeah,
name?
Mancini, or yeah, however you say it.
I don't actually know their name, so I'm just making it up on the fly, but something along those lines. The point is, there's been one person who's been behind, like, been having creative influence on the thing from beginning to end. And as you get later into the series, you can tell that it's like they have an idea of where they want to take this, and it seems like they've managed in the kind of chaotic world that film can be, franchise management can be in particular. Just look at fucking Friday the 13th and Halloween for examples of what can happen when studios get their hands into these things. It gets really messy. But yeah, it kind of holds the rare distinction of being like a very long lived and beloved horror franchise that has a singular creative voice behind it, which is really neat.
Yeah, just some of the places where they take things in the later sequels and the show specifically, I think is really clever and creative, and it's just like, taking this premise of a serial killer using voodoo to get into a doll, and it's like, you would think they would run that idea into the ground, but they keep coming up with new, interesting, just tweaks on that format and ways they can spin the magic and, like, I don't know, I'm always pretty impressed with it, like, yeah, season 1 was kinda just, like, interesting because it was, like, a TV format for the franchise, but then season 2 brought in some new ideas and some new wrinkles, and then, the first part of season 3, they split it up, they had to split it up because of the strikes, but, the first part of season 3, I was really impressed with, like, just you think the idea, okay, Chucky in the White House, okay, alright, that's the premise, but why he's in the White House, like, when you find out, like, by episode 3 is amazing. I was like, that is awesome. Like, it's just like you would think, okay, it's just like, all right, where can we put Chucky? Put him in the White House. But when you flash back and find out why he's there, I was in. It was awesome.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it, man. Ade Dewey Dembala. Chucky
Hmm.
lives.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a favorite movie in the series at this moment?
I mean, I'd probably say 1 or 2, but, I actually really I need to go back and watch it again, but I actually had a really good time with Seed of Chucky. I It's definitely the most just outright comedic,
Hmm.
but, I don't know, it was kind of watching them all in a row, it was a bit of a breath of fresh air. Like, I like Bride of Chucky too, but I felt like that one was a little more just dated in a bad way. Where Seed of Chucky, I like the introduction of Glenn, their child, and obviously Tiffany is an awesome character that shows up in Bride, and is a big part of the franchise going forward. So I
Yeah.
guess I can't pick. I don't know. They're all too good.
I mean, that's a good thing. That just tells you that a lot of them have quite a lot to offer.
Hmm.
Bride of Chucky, that was Ronnie Yu, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I think so. Yeah. Yep.
yeah. I was curious about that one because I've seen his Chinese films and Freddy versus Jason as well, and he does good work, especially on a visual level. He has a very strong visual sense, and yeah,
Hmm.
that I mean, just the addition of Jennifer Tilly is kind of a selling point for everybody. Um, but yeah, cool stuff, man. I had another follow up question for you, but I can't actually remember it, so I'm just gonna breeze on past
That's
that.
fine.
Senior
That's
moment.
fine.
Oh, I've remembered. The remake, Brad. Did you
Mm.
see the remake?
I did. I don't really consider that when I count the franchise because obviously Don Mancini's not involved, but I did watch it last year when I went through the franchise. I did rewatch it actually. Um, Not great, but I will say I love the premise of the full franchise. Like, I think it's the best premise for keeping this franchise going. But I do love the setup of the remake. I just love that it's like a disgruntled employee who basically just turns off the safety devices on the AI doll, or not AI, but yeah, I guess yeah, AI doll, Um, I think that's a pretty great premise. The fact that he's just like, fuck this place, and he just turns all the safety measures off. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just on a conceptual level, it made me think of Small Soldiers because
Yeah.
how could it not? Um, Pretty good movie. But yeah, the remake didn't do much of anything for me. I mean, it was neat that they got Mark Hamill to do the voice. The design of the thing is terrible. It looks like
Yeah.
shit. It does look like shit.
Bad.
But the one positive, I guess, like I can say about it is I think Bear McCreary did the score for it. He did a good job. He always does a good job, even if the movie's not good. He shows up. But yeah, that's probably one of those things we'd all like to just kind of forget happened.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was basically all of Child's Play. Good, like have fun with that. By the way, that's super awesome that she's on board with like going all the way back to the
Hmm.
beginning
Oh
to
yeah.
catch up. Like
Yep.
that's how you know like you got something. Like
Right.
you gotta jump on that. What is it gonna be for me? So we got a franchise pick. So this is going to be a draw pick. So I was telling Brad before we recorded. I actually have a physical drawer in my living room, wherein films that have been set aside for potential viewings with the girlfriend get locked away. And I say locked away because these movies have been accumulating in this drawer. They haven't been watched, but they've just been accumulating for maybe 2 years at this point. So this is a drawer pick, meaning this is one that was set aside a long time ago and to date has yet to be watched. Although I myself did watch all of these twice a piece very recently. Brad probably knows what I'm talking about already. So I have here a really janky box set. Apologies for Blu-ray enthusiasts. A really janky box set in a paper case. It's a UK disc, I believe. Yeah, based on the numbering, I think it's from the UK, but it's region A, so it does play here. Of the Lethal Weapon collection, 5 disc box set containing all 4 films and new extra content. Good quality extra content, by the way. Some really fun interviews with Dick Donner and Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, along with lots of other production crew and stuff. I love these movies. Say what you will about Mel Gibson as a human being. We all know he's kind of a shitheel. I know, but as a performer, when it comes strictly to his performances, uh, Martin Riggs is one hell of a character, and to me, that was always kind of a way that I could potentially sell these movies to the girlfriend. Is that honestly, when I think of the Lethal Weapon movies, the first thing that comes to mind isn't really action. In fact, like the quality of the action to me was always kind of like middle of the road in comparison to say like Die Hard or even like the Timothy Dalton like James Bond movies of the day. It was always like satisfying, like adequate, but it was never like mind blowing action like anything like that. Not like trend setting kind of stuff. Uh, it was always the characters, and I think Richard Donner's direction of all 4 of these movies. Hey, another connection. Not only is it a franchise, Brad, it's also a franchise that has a singular creative voice behind it.
There you
Maybe
go.
not in
Yeah.
terms of writing, not in terms of writing, because Shane Black only wrote the first one and gets like story credit for the second one for dubious reasons. But Richard Donner did direct all 4 of these movies over the course of a decade. And it shows. Like it really does feel there's a cohesiveness to these movies that is kind of special. Like it does almost feel like you're watching seasons of television because the performances are so the transitions between sequels feel so clean. Like the progression and the growth of the characters feels really organic. And there's just like a familial warmth to so much of the cast and the characters in these movies that's like makes me kind of buy into the whole thing that I was saying about like how my girlfriend tends to enjoy media. It's like she likes her characters. She wants to like her characters, and if she has enough attachment to those characters, she wants any excuse she can find to spend more time with them. And that's kind of what these movies are. Is it's like every time they make one, the prospect of a sequel is kind of like, maybe. But then you think about it, it's like, it kind of would be cool to just hang out with Riggs and Murtaugh for another 2 hours. Like, how could that be bad? And at this point, unfortunately, everybody's long in the tooth to the point that's like, no. And Richard Donner is no longer with us, as far as I understand. I forget if that's true or not. But the point is, we don't need a Lethal Weapon 5. We got 4 of them over the course of a decade. I think they're all kind of great. The third one is like the only dip to me. It's the only one that feels a little less than. But beyond that, it's pretty much uniformly excellent. So yeah, if only to introduce the characters to the girlfriend. That's something that I'd like to try. It's kind of rough because if I'm being totally honest, the first Lethal Weapon is not really my favorite. It's kind of just a rush to get to 2, but you need 1 in order for the characterizations to carry as much weight and impact as they do. So it's like, you got to watch them all. It's like, I know it's 4 movies. I know that, like, in total that's probably less than the length of a season of television, but for some reason you'll rationalize that I'm asking more. But yeah, Lethal Weapon. We did it all. I mostly did a masterclass of all of these. So ask me anything.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty unversed in the Lethal Weapon franchise. That's definitely one I need to cross off my list at some point. So, maybe you got to have me and your girlfriend. We're gonna do a watch. All 3 of us will watch them. But yeah, it's definitely a good franchise. And I was trying to think what, um, other franchises where it's had the same director for at least 4 of the movies. Obviously, Indiana Jones comes to mind. And I don't know if it loses points for the 5th one not being directed by Spielberg. Um, you know what I mean? So I think it's definitely best to just leave Lethal Weapon as is. Keep that franchise cred.
Yeah. Indiana Jones. We didn't need that last one, although I get it. It's like there's the hope that it still has the juice, and it doesn't help when the final act is nobody's favorite. Like,
Mhm.
no, like, it's very hard to back Kingdom of the Crystal Skull as like a satisfying conclusion to that character.
Yeah.
Dial of Destiny, I'm not going to spoil it, being as it's still new enough. But I did go see it in the theater. I was one of the few, the proud, I guess. Um, and it's made by a competent filmmaker for sure. James Mangold he has made very good films. I'm curious why he was chosen, other than the fact that he does seem to have an affinity for the old gunslinger trope. Like, he has done a handful of those movies. Like, Copland kind of has that vibe to it. Logan most certainly has that vibe to it. Even Ford versus Ferrari at least has like an underdog vibe to it. Um, but yeah, I have not the most glowing of things to say about Dial of Destiny. But yeah, Lethal Weapon. It's like Lethal Weapon 4 is way better than it has any business being. If I'm being totally honest, like, 10 years later, sequels were in the late 90s, I don't think especially common. And for it to be as good of a film as it is actually kind of shocking. In fact, if I'm being honest, maybe it's my age talking, um, being as I was roughly of the age where like a R-rated action movie would be a big deal to me at the time of its release. I think it was 98. Um, but I do think that may be one of the ones I've seen the most. It's 2 and 4 to me. Or no, actually, that's a lie. I've seen 3 a lot, because that was the only one of these movies that we owned on VHS because Dad got it at like a library sale or something. He was like, "Hey, I got a random movie. It's the third in a franchise that you haven't seen any of the other ones in, but you're young, so you don't care, right?" It's like, sure, whatever.
Give us an estimate. How many times do you think you've seen the Lethal Weapon 3 in your lifetime?
20, 25, something like that. A
Nice.
lot.
Yeah.
It got a lot of play in the house.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really do want to get the girlfriend to try to watch these. I know it's a stretch. Like, the subject matter is definitely like buddy cop is definitely not really her thing. I'm hoping just the charm and characters like Leo and stuff, like when it starts to get, when the cast grows out a little bit. Like I said, the hardest thing with starting people off with Lethal Weapon is the fact that you have to start at Lethal Weapon 1. And if I'm being totally honest, it's a very good film, but it is not what it will become. It's a beginning. Like Martin Riggs is a totally different character in only that film. After that, it's a different thing. Um, but yeah, do you think has your girlfriend ever seen these ones?
Not that I know of, no. Yeah, that I mean, that'd be one that, it'd be good because I certainly have not seen them all, and, I know I'm assuming she hasn't either, so, that'd be a good one where we both could, do a little catching up on cinema with the Lethal Weapon Lethal Weapon franchise. It is fun. I do like, showing like, sitting down and showing a franchise to someone. Like, that's I don't know, there's something about that is fun.
I love it. It's one of my favorite things. Like that's why we do this fucking show, Brad.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
because show and tell is like one of my favorite things. Sometimes it can be
yeah.
hard to convince the girlfriend to check out some of these picks, but it has worked out very well on occasion. Like Mission Impossible, actually. Say what you will about Tom Cruise as a human being, but those Mission Impossible films and Top Gun and many other films. Say what you will about him as a human being, but the Mission Impossible series did actually get her involved in that. Like she did actually get kind of attached to that franchise, and she was kind of asking me, when are we going to watch the next one? And that's a cool feeling. Like it's like you with your gal and Child's Play, where it's like you want me to put the slasher movie in the Blu-ray player? It's like
Mhm. Yeah.
you're asking me to put the Killer Doll movie on? Wow.
That actually just happened with, I've been watching through the Saw movies
Oh.
and, sat down to watch Jigsaw, the 8th one, and, she got roped in, and it ended, and she said, "When are we watching the Jigsaw 2?" And I'm like, "Well, the next one's called Spiral, so the next one." But, yeah, well, that's next on the docket.
Wow. She walked in on like one of the worst ones, and she was intrigued. That's how you can tell she's into
Well,
it.
I mean, I'll be honest, not to get in off track here, but when you're rewatching all these in a row, Jigsaw actually is I find it far from the worst. I had it as ranked as one of the worst,
Uh-huh.
and I rewatched it, and I was just first of all, Saw 5, 6, and 7 are some of the worst looking movies I've ever seen, like,
Yeah.
visually horrendous, and then you put in Jigsaw, and it's like, "Oh, this looks like an actual movie." I mean, it doesn't look like a great looking movie, but it's like, "Holy shit," like, they actually took the time, like, there's lighting involved, like, this actually looks I felt like, I was watching something directed by, fucking Emmanuel Lubezki. I was, like, such a night and day. I was like, "Holy crap." So just that alone was like when you watch all these in a row, it's like, okay, you start picking up, well, Jigsaw actually, this one it's actually who done it, so it's got that going for it. It's yeah, I was surprised because I had that on Letterboxd. It was a 1 and I rewatched it. I bumped it up to a 3. I was like, this is one of the not best, but I would say it's upper middle at least.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've actually watched those movies. I have fragmented memories of working my way through them. I do remember it getting kind of soggy around the 5 or 6 territory. What is 7 called? Is that Saw 3D or whatever?
I think Saw 3D is the official title still, but also known as Saw the Final Chapter.
Oh, jeez. Never do that.
Yeah.
Like, never do that. Like especially Friday the 13th. Four movies in. We're calling it the final chapter. Are you
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
kidding me?
And that one's funny too, because like, I had remembered in my head Saw 3D as being, like, one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my life,
Yeah.
and it's just like you watch all these in a row and you compare them to one another, and you're like, Saw 3D, it's not great, but it's not the worst thing ever, like, if you watch it, like, within like just every other movie ever. Like if you're watching, you know, Platoon one day, Heat another day, and then you watch Saw 3D, it's like, okay, yeah, this is horrible. But if you're watching Saw 5, Saw 6, Saw 7, you're like, it's not a half-star movie. It's okay. It's all right. Um, yeah, it's like the best way to put it is it's like you're a frog in a pot of boiling water. You don't notice that it's cooking you alive.
Yeah, if all you've ever had is saltines, when someone hands you a Triscuit, it's like
Yeah, exactly. Yep, 100%. So,
Okay, well, we can get off of franchise talk, or maybe not, but I was gonna ask you, Saw or Final Destination, which
hmm.
of those would, if you were to choose to introduce one to the girlfriend, which would you prefer?
Well, I mean, I would say Final Destination, but that was actually one that when we'd started dating, she'd seen them all already. That was
Oh,
yeah, I was shocked. I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen them all. I've seen all those. I love those movies." I'm like, she's not like that big of a horror person, so I was kind of surprised, but I'm like, "Cool, all right,
it's like,
good
okay,
deal."
this this pleases me.
Yeah, yep. But
That'll work.
yeah, I would say I'm more of a Final Destination guy. I mean, even
Yeah,
though they're a little bit more just like not formulaic, but they just all follow the same structure where Saw gets a little more wacky. I just think there's just more just the batting average is better for Final Destination.
yeah, no, I would agree. Saw, it's just the wacky lore. Like
Yeah.
of things to get invested in a trashy, gory horror franchise. Like I'm in it for the lore. It's like I'm in it for the story.
Yeah.
ah, well. Anyway, so that was Lethal Weapon. So Brad, I'll pass the baton to you. What is your next partner pick?
Well, my next partner pick, let's go with this one. I'm sure I've talked about this on this show before, but I did mention that my girlfriend is a big fan of the Who Done It, the mystery. And let's do a little learning today. What is Italian for who done it? It is giallo. Giallo. That's not really what it
That's a
means, but
lie.
basically, that's basically it. I mean, come on now.
It means yellow.
Um,
Damn it.
yeah. When somebody said, "Well, I talk about giallo," and they're like, "What is giallo?" And well, first of all, I'm not like like I'm not at work talking about giallo. Like these are like my friends that watch movies. And they're like, "Well, what's giallo?" And I basically just the easiest way to say it is it's just an Italian who done it. That's just the broadest way to just without getting into details, just sum it up.
Oh, you're missing
Um,
out on an opportunity to be a snooty bastard and say it's a vibe, man.
it is a vibe. It is a vibe. It is a vibe, but I don't wanna be that person. I don't wanna be that guy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite giallos, I don't know if I'd say my favorite, probably not my favorite, but one of them is, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. Dario Argento's The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, which is his first film, and I think is just what a banger to start off his career. This movie rocks. I like that it's definitely one of his, I'm not gonna say it's his, like, least stylistic film, because the one that comes after this, The Cat o' Nine Tails, isn't quite as flashy as some of his other stuff either, but I actually think this one just it works really well because it is a little more straightforward, like, I love some of the stuff he does in Deep Red and Suspiria and, like, the colors and the over the top kills and gore. I love all that stuff, but this one's refreshing because it's a little bit more of a down to earth, straightforward, murder mystery slasher who done it. I think there's some clever reveals in terms of like what happens, who the killer is, like some interesting stuff in terms of um like our main character, he witnesses the murder and the whole movie he's like thinking, man, he keeps replaying it in his head and he's like something I'm misremembering something. He keeps thinking I'm misremembering something. And I think when he finally realizes what it is he's misremembered, I think it's a pretty clever kind of reveal. And when you go back and watch the movie again, you'll see that it was there the whole time. I love that about Dario Argento. There's a moment in Deep Red, not to spoil anything, but there's a moment where the character has a revelation from when he witnessed the first murder, and it flashes back and shows something, and you watch it and you're like, okay, that must have been, they must have filmed that shot. They must have done that shot twice, because there's no way that was there the first time and I didn't see it. And then you go back and watch it and it is 100% there the first time. It's so quick, but so like well done and hidden that like it seems obvious when you like draw attention to it, but like when you're watching it in the moment, it totally goes by you. It's super clever and cool. But anyway, that's a different movie. Bird of the Crystal Plumage, just straightforward, great murder mystery. I don't know if there would be any issues with the dubbing. Might be, I know some people have issues with dubbing. I don't know if she's ever experienced much dubbing, so that could be a problem. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Argento, so yeah, it might be, she has seen Suspiria. She has seen Suspiria. We went and saw Suspiria live in concert with Goblin playing the score. So that was cool. And don't really remember her saying what she thought of the movie, to be honest.
Never take
So
me to that again.
yeah. Yeah, it was me and Charlie, the two of us, and then my girlfriend and his girlfriend at the time, now wife. We all went, and I mean, I was jacked. I don't even. To be honest, I don't remember what anyone said about the show. I was just like, that was the fucking best ever. I was moshing in my seat. It was great. So
Just got sloshed on Negroni and
oh yeah,
rocked out to Goblin.
yeah, hell yeah.
That's super cool, man. Yeah, you had told me about that concert. That's such a cool idea. To actually have the band playing the score live in time to the movie. That is kind of distressing though, to not have not actually have a barometer like as to like what her reaction to the film was.
Yeah, I really don't remember. I don't know if anybody. Yeah, I think I might have been the only one who was just like vibing out. So
Well, maybe you should do your due diligence, and when you pitch the bird with the crystal plumage, maybe disclose it's from the same guy or the same vibe as, and then
see what she thinks. Yeah, yeah,
gauge the reaction.
yeah.
I have to do that sometimes, where it's like sometimes it's important to let them know what they're getting into. Otherwise, it's I mean, full disclosure, I sat the girlfriend down to watch Bram Stoker's Dracula, and she still will not let me. She will not let me get past that. She's like, "You fucked up." It's like you get to
Ouch.
pick a movie like every so often, and you pick that pile. It's like, it's not a bad movie. It's aesthetically pleasing. It's lights with sound. She's like, but it doesn't make any fucking sense. I was like, it doesn't have to.
Got to know your audience. You got to know your audience.
Yeah, I fucked up. Like I should have read the room on that one. There's no worse feeling than watching a fairly substantial movie, like a 2-hour movie or something, and less than halfway through, like feeling the aura of dissatisfaction emanating from the person next to you. That's what happened to
Yeah.
me with fucking Coppola's Dracula movie, which I quite like, just because I like looking at it and I like listening to it. But Bird with the Crystal Plumage is not one that I've seen. I haven't really seen. I don't even know if I've seen an Argento film, if I'm being honest. But I know
Bro.
you're a big fan of his. But you say that's his first film? When did that one come out?
I want to say it was 1970 on the button.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's
Definitely
kind of a
very,
straightforward whodunit, you say?
yeah, it's very Hitchcock inspired, but it still has all the elements like here. There's a little booklet here, like still has all the Giallo elements. Like it's got the black gloved killer, the POV kill sequences, but it's just not as over the top as some of his other stuff. Great score in here though. Ennio Morricone does the score. Very cool.
Ooh, love him.
Yeah, and it's just it really does hit all the trademarks of the giallo genre. It just doesn't go quite as like, if you want to show like, I think my girlfriend would like this better because it is a little more down to earth and grounded. whereas Deep Red has some pretty insane sequences and kills, and Tenebrae has some as well. And I love that stuff, but this one's it's a little refreshing. Even though it's his first movie, it feels refreshing in the bulk of his work because it is so grounded compared to some of the other stuff.
Oh, it's like a progression of like musical trends and whatnot, where it's like
Mhm.
you have your kind of like psychedelic stuff that turns into like proto metal that turns into like full on heavy metal or something. So it's like, yeah, I'm a little prog rock or something before we go heavy metal.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Yep, yep.
But would you say that would function as like an introductory giallo, perhaps?
Yeah, I would say, if I was gonna pick a giallo to show someone who hasn't seen any of them, I would probably pick this one, I think.
Okay, well that maybe
Yeah.
that's where I need to start.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get ahead of your girlfriend and check it out on my own.
Yeah, I would just go through Dario Argento's films, m mostly, like, I think you can skip Cat and Nine Tails, that one's not great, but,
Oh, okay.
start at the beginning and just kinda hit all his, because for the first, 15 years of his career, maybe other than Cat and Nine Tails, they're all certified bangers. So, just start there, and then you get out, you start branching off into the Lucio Fulcis, the Sergio Martinos, and then you start really getting into you go A tier, then B tier, and then you get into start really dipping your toes into the schlock.
Start getting into what Bruno Mattei or whatever.
Oh yeah. Oh, and where's it? That's when you get into the forgotten giallis, from Vinegar Syndrome, and that's when you get into the real. Whew, that makes these movies look like stone cold classics, which they are.
Just
They're great.
real quick. You want to read off what's in that box?
So this is the third one. It has Autopsy, Murder Mansion, and Crazy Desires of a Murderer.
Never heard of any of them, but the
Nope.
box is typical Vinegar Syndrome fashion, quite handsome.
Yep. Yep. That's why they're forgotten. You've never heard of them. They're forgotten. Forgotten gialli.
Yeah, they're not lying. Well, cool. I like I said, I should probably dip my toes into that arena, see what it's all about. Being as I was trying to pitch Kyle on it for years without ever actually having a whole lot of firsthand familiarity with it, just because like based on what I know of his taste in film, it's like kind of audacious visual elements. He's not averse to gore and whatnot. Stylism is kind of his thing. I mean, for fuck's sake, Bram Stoker's Dracula is a movie that both of us, both he and I, like. I figured Giallo would be right up his alley, just the tropes of that genre. But
Hmm.
as far as I know, he's still kind of a novice at it as well. But maybe someday. But Bird with the Crystal Plumage officially on my to-do list.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't have anything that can complement that. So we're gonna
Nothing bird
hastily.
related. No birds.
No, I'm scared of birds, man. They're weird. They got weird. They move weird in that herky jerky kind of fashion. They got the
Yeah.
dead glass eyes and stuff. Birds creep me out, man.
True. Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't really have anything that can complement an Argento or a Giallo film. However, theming. I'm gonna make a transition out of this, Brad. So you did mention that was Dario Argento's first film, his first direct. That was his directorial debut.
You got it.
So I have here in my hands a movie that I think is a directorial debut. Maybe not the first thing that they made, but I think the first feature film that they directed. And maybe it was a co-directing gig. But anyway, I don't know if you encounter this, Brad, but there's a thing that happens in my household quite often where I make a lot of references, do a lot of imitations, do a lot of like vocal imitations of pop culture figures that the girlfriend has no familiarity with. So much of my efforts are for naught. And every once in a while, I feel the need to like catch her up a little bit, just be like, hey, you know all those stupid fucking things I'm saying all the time? Here's where they come from. Like Wayne's World, kind of a really special moment in our relationship, like kind of a neat thing that she did. She does a lot of neat things, but and I appreciate all of them. But she actually got us drive-in tickets to a screening of Wayne's World. She had
Nice.
never seen the movie, but she knew that I reference it on virtually every podcast I do. So she's like, I have a feeling that this is one of your drawer movies. And I'm like, yeah. So we knocked that off the list. And she was the one who purchased the tickets for the drive-in theater. And it was a great time. So kind of similar to Wayne's World, I have a relic from a bygone age of the 90s that she has zero familiarity with, but comes from a creator who, while the thing in my hand may not be the thing that I think of instantly when I think of him, his body of work has been with me for a good chunk of my life, and I do make a lot of references to things that he's worked on. So, to dispel the mystery, I have here in my hand Beavis and Butthead Do America,
Mm-hmm.
from Mike Judge, who of course created Beavis and Butthead via a short animation. I think it was Frog Baseball. I think was where their origins was, or where they originated from. That was a terrible sentence. But then, of course, he did the Beavis and Butthead show on MTV, and later on, King of the Hill. Also, Beavis and Butthead gave way to Daria, but I don't think he actually made that show. He made the character, but King of the Hill actually is largely where my connection to Mike Judge comes from. Beavis and Butthead was slightly before my time. Like, my brother was all about it. I just kind of got the table scraps and whatnot. But this movie, my cool uncle, well, everybody has a cool uncle. My cool uncle took me and my brother to the theater to go see this. And when I was probably way too young and I didn't get any of it,
Yeah.
except for like some of the scatological stuff, and of course the the slapstick. And anytime Butthead would smack Beavis, I'd laugh and laugh and laugh. But I reference this movie like all the time. I mean, one of the better podcasts I've done was with Richie from Super Media Bros podcast. He and I just basically just did a Chris Farley show of it, just 2 hours back and forth, just referencing it, just like imitating Beavis and Butthead throughout the entire runtime of the movie. It was great, and to me, this movie is great. It's short. It gets a lot of laughs per minute out of me personally, and it's one that I really want to show the girlfriend, because I actually have no interest in like going back and watching like all the old Beavis and Butthead. Although I have heard that the new Beavis and Butthead is not bad. I'm not like super attached to these characters. I just really like this movie because my cool uncle took me to see it when I was too young, and so many of the gags have just kind of like crystallized in my brain as being super fucking funny to me personally. It probably isn't. It's just it got me at the right time. But now, like, I really want to show the girlfriend this movie. So, like, when I say things like, is this a goddamn? like, whenever we come across a dam or something,
Yeah.
she'll get the reference. Or when I say, that's really not that much. like, she'll get the reference. So, like, there's so many quotes from this movie. And my Hank Hill voice just goes completely to waste in this household because she's never seen King of the Hill and never experienced Anderson from this show. But yeah, Beavis and Butthead Do America. It's short, it's funny, and it would be really nice to introduce Beavis and Butthead to her properly, especially since her older brother is roughly the same age as me and gets all the same references as me. He and I do the shit back and forth. She's lost. She doesn't know what
Yeah.
the fuck we're talking about, but we're having a great time doing it. And then on top of that, her little nephew, who is again her brother's son, does the Cornholio thing and calls himself Cornholio. But she doesn't know who Cornholio is or what Cornholio is. I would like her to know what Cornholio is.
Yeah. So I mean, you're all making these references, and she's just the odd woman out. She just, like doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, be rambling about propane accessories. She won't know
Yeah.
what the fuck I'm
Yeah.
talking about. And seriously, is this a is this a goddamn? Just rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah. Yeah. You owe it to her to show her this movie so she can just be in on the loop. Like,
My favorite, that my favorite really is it's really not that much. It's like in reference to how much water Old Faithful shoots.
Yeah, I've never actually, at least as far as I remember, I never actually seen the movie. But I do remember, um, you guys reviewing it or talking about it, and the way you sold that bit, that it's really not that much. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good bit. I like that.
It just kind of summarize it really encapsulates like shithead teenage boys so
Yep.
well. It's like you
Yep.
take something beautiful and you just in one sentence tear it apart.
I love that. That's so good.
uh that's a goddamn
Now, would you think
anyway.
to show her, like, any of the show as just, like, a primer, like an appetizer, or just go right to the movie?
Okay, well, we have Chase Keys, maybe in the chat here, so maybe they'll get this reference here. But I don't think I would show them every episode. Like even I'm not super familiar. Like I said, I was born in '87. My brother's 4 years older than me. He was all in on Beavis and Butthead. Like he was there for it. I just kind of like got his residual stuff, kind of similar to Gen 1 Transformers, like the OG Transformers. Like I wasn't technically there for it, but it felt like I was because I had an older brother who had hand me down toys and we had tapes of the show and stuff. And speaking of movies I've seen 25, 50 fucking times, Transformers the movie is definitely the one. I didn't pull that off the shelf, Brad, because I know better. The girlfriend would have no time for Transformers the movie.
Yeah,
As much as
yeah.
I love that movie, no, that's a wasted effort. I know that. I'm not gonna try to push for that. Uh, unless she like really fucks up and I have like all the brownie points in the world to cash in, like it's not gonna happen. But anyway, to complete the thought, yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in like going all the way back and like rewatching the old MTV show, like all the skits and stuff, and like them lampooning the music videos and stuff. But I would make her watch the Plant Man, because the Plant Man is one of those special 90s music videos that anytime the subject of 90s music videos comes up, meaning shitty 90s music videos, that is the one. That is my card to play. That is the one reference I get to slap on the table that most people don't remember, but it's like I remember the Plant Man and you're gonna watch it. The next 3 minutes are mine, baby. So yeah, maybe I'd make her watch that part or something like that.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's, nice little appetizer, I guess. Only 3 minutes long.
Yeah, and the movie, like I said, I did emphasize that it's short. It is 80 minutes.
Mm.
That's not asking too much.
It's not at all. It's a good one to squeeze in, you know?
Yeah, no, really, the runtime matters when it comes to proposing stupid fucking movies for the girlfriend to watch. It's like, is it
Right,
short?
right. Yeah. Do
um,
you have issues with comedies though? I find myself not watching comedies as much because, like, at the end of the day, I'm just too tired to laugh. Like, I don't want to laugh. I just
yeah,
especially if I watch something late at night and it's like I don't want to be loud. Like, it's tough.
yeah, it's a funny thing because I feel like the state of comedy films right now, you've said this yourself, like it feels like it's a dying genre. It's probably just like economically just not viable or something, just because it's very hard to sell dialogue driven comedy like to international audiences. So you're already kind of like condensing your prospective audience for the product, and then nobody wants to spend money on anything, and unfortunately a lot of like top flight comedians and stuff probably carry a pretty hefty price tag that smaller production companies probably just would not care to pay. um but on top of that, yeah, it's like it's not a genre that I find myself coming to very often. It kind of feels like speaking of thing like relics from the 90s and stuff, it kind of feels like the things that are special to me on a comedic level maybe already happened. Like it's already just kind of crystallized inside me and I'm not looking for more. Like
Hmm.
I'm kind of more interested in like generating like laughs on my own rather than receiving them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It definitely feels like, even in terms of television, like, it seems like there's still comedy shows out there that are comedies, but they are a little bit more just, like, not quite as much of a straight, just, like, only existing for laughs, you know what I mean? Like, something like The King of Queens, there's not much, artistic merit to it in terms of its filmmaking, like, it only exists for the laughs,
Yeah.
whereas nowadays, there's not as many of those, like, like something like Barry or something like that, which is, a really good show. It's a funny show, but it's definitely like trying to be much elevating the comedy genre. Like there's not really many just straight sitcoms or comedies anymore.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from, but yeah, dramedies seem to be more the norm. And on top of that, I think it's just I have a lot of scattered thoughts about this. Maybe someday I'll have a treatise on this or something. But I feel like the way people engage with media these days has changed. Like there's a desire for a deeper level of engagement or just depth of some sort that there wasn't as much of a hunger for as there seems to be a necessity for now. Like people are very invested and very obsessive about like ordinary people. Like I'm not talking about like internet people. Like I'm talking about just like your average watcher of these things. But yeah, like for me, like things like Seinfeld and King of Queens and stuff, sitcom kind of stuff that purely existed just to make you laugh. Like that was always the appeal to me for Seinfeld, is that the whole finale of that show is basically just kind of saying like, yeah, these if these characters existed in real life, this is what it would look like. like nothing of that show is there's not a serious bone in that show's body. Like with the exception of maybe like the some of the early like the first season stuff or something. But then there's like Friends or something that has like kind of a ratio of like goofy laughs to like oh moments every now and
Hmm.
again with the Ross
Yeah.
and Rachel stuff or something. So I don't know. I'm rambling at this point, borderline incoherent. So it's probably time to move on.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit of a stroke, not a big deal. Anyway, so that was Beavis and Butthead Do America. So Brad, you want to do one more pick, or do you want to head straight into the speed round?
I think we can do one more. We can do one more round. Why
Okay,
not?
okay, let's do
We're
it.
having fun here. How about let's go with this one. This is one I don't even know if she's seen, but if she hasn't, then it's a must watch. Scorsese, everyone he's the talk of the town this year with his new movie out. And there's a lot of Scorsese movies I would love to do a little show and tell with, but one that I think would be a big hit, I think would be this one. I think it'd be Shutter Island, starring the great Leonardo DiCaprio. Um, I I know a lot of people think this is lesser Scorsese. I've always said those people are dummies. No, they're not dummies. There's, hey, everybody's got their own opinion, but I've always loved Shutter Island. Um, I agree that first of all, I like the twist. On the first few viewings, I felt like the delivery of the twist was a little like it's not my favorite, and I kind of still agree. Like it's kind of just a lot of just like it's like a long scene of just explaining everything. But I think it works for the most part, and the ending I think is amazing, and I think this would just be a great one to show because it's, dipping its toes in the horror genre. Like I'd probably classify it as a horror film, but it's nothing too extreme. And there's obviously a great twist and a mystery to it. It's not necessarily a murder mystery, but there is a mystery to figure out and find out what's going on. And yeah, I've always loved Shutter Island ever since it came out. I know a lot of people weren't big fans of it initially. I think it's kind of maybe grown in people's minds a little bit. Like people hold it in a bit higher regard than when it first came out. But I've always quite liked Shutter Island.
Yeah, have not seen it myself, but
Oh, I hope I didn't
you're fine.
spoil anything by saying there's a twist.
No, I'm on the internet enough that I hear things,
Okay.
so it's fine, bud. Don't worry about it. But it is one that I really want to see, if only for the cast. Like I really love the assemblage of uh, character actors that are in there. Like
Mhm.
really, that's like a whole menagerie of that guys and that gals where it's like, whoa, these are like not people that you would reach for like instantaneously, but like when you think about like their placement in the film, it's like, oh wow, we did a really good job putting together this cast of people with these really interesting faces that kind of like if you look at how they're typically cast, it's kind of loaded in some way. I have to assume that's very intentional. Um, but yeah, as soon as that one like was getting promotion behind it, I was like, oh, it's not getting good buzz, but to me, this sounds really intriguing. Like I'm really down for everything that this seems to be presenting to me. So yeah, I really want to go back and watch that one.
Yeah. I feel like I think it was his follow-up to The Departed, and I kind of feel like there's maybe I don't know, there's always this thing, and sometimes it's warranted, but not always, where, sometimes when a filmmaker has, like, their biggest success, people are extra critical of whatever comes out next, and I would certainly not say The Departed is his best film, but it is what won him his Oscar. So he won Oscar Gold for it. So I suppose his follow up being this kind of really trashy horror thriller, maybe people just were expecting more. But I think there's a lot of interesting ideas, and I think it's an amazing looking film. I love the production design. And like you said, the cast is great. Yeah, I think it's an overall just awesome movie.
Yeah, I mean Scorsese, like correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like he often has like a TikTok pattern, like a one for me, or one for them, one for me kind of rhythm to his release schedule. Because like I seem to remember Silence coming out around a time where it's like, I did like The Irishman or something. It's like, yeah, it's time to do a me movie.
Hmm.
You Same with probably Last Temptation of Christ and what Age of Innocence or whatever. Like it kind of seems like there's these other projects that he does where he steps out and does kind of something that he has noodling around in his own head that maybe he has a different kind of investment in. And Shutter Island, as far as I could tell, was like one of those things that's like, again, on the heels of The Departed. It's probably like, I don't think this is what people are expecting or asking for from him at this moment.
Yeah, yeah, and
Same with Leo, probably too.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's just such a bummer that he had to come out with Hugo in 2011. Because I mean, I tell you, if it wasn't Hugo, that run, we'd have Shutter Island, Wolf of Wall Street, Silence, Irishman, into Killers of the Flower Moon. Could be an all-time legendary run. Hugo, throw Departed in there. Throw The Departed in there because that would be in the
You have
line.
to, yeah, you have to.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I really need to force feed Hugo because I know people really liked it at the time, and it's fine. It just I don't know. I get that it's it's a kids movie, but I of course I know all kids love learning about these silent film directors. Just it's what the kids love to learn about. Classic kids movie material.
Yeah, Hugo was one of those movies that's like, I think it was like fashionable to say you liked it, but it's like, did you actually see it? Because I don't know that you did.
Yeah,
Because like I did hear good things about Hugo, but in the wild, I very seldom meet people who have actually experienced Hugo, myself included. It's in the
yeah.
Criterion Collection now, isn't it?
No, Arrow just put it out.
Arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
got a
picked
new
it up. I
release.
did pick it up, so I'll be ready to revisit it on 4K, but I don't know.
We gotta get you a painting of Martin Scorsese looking down at you like,
Yeah.
like mm.
Yeah,
It's like, hey,
yeah,
buddy, you gonna claim to be a fan of my work? You better get on it, man. You better watch
yeah.
Hugo, and you better love it.
I'll force feed it.
You better watch all my New York short
Yeah.
films, all my band documentaries and shit. You're
Well,
gonna
that's a
watch
whole
it.
other topic. If we're getting into his music documentaries, then
Yeah, no,
that whole
let's not.
theory falls apart of my
Yeah,
perfect run. Not that I've seen them, but
a future episode, Brad. It would require more research in that it would require research, but like, like outstanding runs or something, like notable runs that
Yeah.
directors have had, or stars, or basically just an example of someone on a hot streak.
I feel
Um,
like the classic is they always say 4. That's the four movie run who has the best, like, that's the question people pose.
mm,
Um, because I know people were saying Scorsese had a really good one with his last 4, Killers of the Flower Moon, Silence, Irishman, and Wolf of Wall Street. Like, in terms of 4 movie run, it's pretty great. Um,
I mean, even for a prolific filmmaker, that can be a decade.
yeah. hmm So yeah, that'd be an interesting topic because yeah, to have yeah, I couldn't really think of any off because it's just bad with release dates. Like trying to think who would.
I mean, I flubbed it just then with like which came out first, Irishman or Silence. I don't fucking know. I just know it happened. It's
Yeah,
like I know that much. Give me some credit.
yeah, because I'm trying to think. Nolan, I feel like his kind of gets screwed up by Dark Knight Rises in there. Otherwise, he'd have a really good one. Like,
Yeah,
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 if Dark Knight Rises wasn't in there, it'd be Prestige, Dark Knight, Inception, Interstellar. That'd be a pretty great 4 movie run. But Dark Knight Rises,
yeah.
sorry.
Didn't quite nail it. Yeah, I mean, I like that movie, but I would never say it's on the same level as the other
Yeah,
ones you just
yeah.
mentioned.
So
Uh,
yeah,
but yeah,
that would be an interesting topic. Yeah,
like I
yeah,
said, it would actually require research. It's like
yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that, man. That's not how we do. But yeah, maybe that's a project for another day, or hey, maybe that's something you can do for the Cinema Speak podcast.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's a good idea.
yeah, rope Santino into that. He's got time. I
Yep,
know you
yep.
do if you're listening. Better be listening. You got to consume all the contents,
Oh yeah.
all the Brad contents. Uh, okay, well, I'm actually going to forego my last pick here in the interest of time. I got to go be sociable because I believe the girlfriend actually is home now. What we're going to do, dear listeners and hopefully viewers, is proceed into a little something that we like to call the speed round, which is never all that fast and typically very long, which is why we're doing it now. So essentially, what the speed round is where we basically take all the titles that we set aside for today's discussion, all the ones that we haven't talked about already, and just kind of run through them without as much of a discussion component. I mean, we obviously can just jump in and toss out some comments here and there whenever we feel like it, but the idea is instead of like dropping everything and talking about like doing a fucking seminar about the thing, we're just going to rush through it. So Brad, would you like to go first, or should I just rattle off my titles? I have quite a few. I'll just disclose that up front.
I can go first. I don't have a ton. Yeah, I'll just burn through these. I got the Criterion release of Fantastic Mr. Fox. Not sure if she's ever dipped into Wes Anderson. Actually, that's something I need to ask her. But if actually, no. So actually, now this is coming back to me. I watched this with her, but it was when she was sick and fell asleep during it, and I watched it. So this one probably needs to be revisited, but it is my favorite Wes Anderson movie. So I definitely feel like it'd be one that would be enjoyed by everybody. Um, a couple comedies, I guess, that are must watches in terms of stuff that I've seen a million times. The Cable Guy and Monty Python and the Holy Grail, both of which we've talked about, but two of my
Oh,
favorite
I mean, you
comedies.
you you got to sit her down for those. At the very
Yeah,
least, the Cable Guy and the Holy Grail. It's just that's cultural knowledge.
yeah, yeah.
Like that, really. You will meet nerds who will toss quotes at you from that movie. It will
Yep.
happen, especially if you do trivia and stuff. Come on.
Oh yeah. And the Cable Guy is one that's like it's one I've, been wanting to revisit and show. But it's the thing where I said it's like it's so funny. It's still such a funny movie to me that it's like I need to be in the right mood because I know it's going to be like a physically exhausting viewing experience because I'm going to laugh so much. Um, so I need to be in the proper, mood for it, proper frame of mind. This one, I don't think I've ever showed her. Lost in Translation, but obviously one of my all-time favorites. I think we'd get it'd be some good traction. It is a little a little moody, a little slow burny, not it's a bit more of a vibe kind of movie. But I think definitely the comedy in it obviously is one thing that kind of makes it a little more accessible to everybody. Uh Movie that I don't know in terms of the subject matter how it would go over, but in terms of just watchability, gotta go with I just dropped all the movies. Boogie Nights.
Oh,
Um,
fuck yeah.
yeah, just one again that you can just throw on and
Yeah.
anytime just
I
watch
don't
through the
own
whole
it,
thing.
but it's on my list too.
Yep. And last but not least, I pulled this one off because just it's a good kind of mind fuck, and it's a movie I've seen a lot, but I haven't seen it in a while. Donnie
Ooh.
Darko, which yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it, and I have it on 4K here, and this is just a massive set from Arrow. It's like this the book that comes with it is not even like it's like a hardcover.
Oh
Like
shit. It's a
it's
book
pretty
book.
impressive. So like yeah, take a little peek inside. You got not
Arrow
bad,
does
not
good
bad.
work.
So yeah, yeah. I remember this. This is the classic like college kind of like dorm room. Like dude, like it's so deep. Like it's good. Um, don't know how much it would hold up for me, but stylistically, I do like Richard Kelly, so I think I would still really like it. Don't know if I'd love it, but I definitely think I need to give this one another poke.
Okay, I actually haven't seen Donnie Darko, but that's some cultural knowledge that I need to obtain because you're right.
Wow.
Like kind of like college age viewing. Like that's kind of what I think of when I think of that movie because like a lot of my contemporaries were really into that movie. Like it really spoke to them. Like around that time of their life or their late teens or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, I completely breezed past it, so I don't really know what the whole deal is. But it has elements to it that I like. It's like I like the Gyllenhaals, plural. I like both of
Hmm.
them. So I mean that's a selling point. And the little bit that I know about the premise sounds like it's like this sounds worth a watch. Like maybe it won't hold up as well, but it would be nice to know what it is. Just
Yeah.
just to know.
Yeah.
I'm,
No,
I'm kind of all about that.
yeah, I don't know. I need to do. I mean, he's only got 3 films. I think I need to do another Richard Kelly. I need to go through his movies again because I don't know. They're like I kind of really like them. I don't know. I don't know why. Like they're not as. I feel like they feel like they're way deeper than they actually are. But I think I kind of like the style of them. Like his just like I don't give a fuck if this doesn't make sense or if you think it's weird. I'm just gonna do it. I kind of respect it.
What else did he do? Was it Southland Tales? Was that him?
Southland Tales.
Wow, how did I remember that?
Which I watched for the first time and is definitely a mixed bag, but a very interesting mixed bag. And then his other one, which I've only seen once, The Box. That one
Oh,
I am very because I kind of remember liking The Box, to be honest. Like it is weird, but it is interesting.
is that Frank Langella?
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I think I started to watch that, but I don't think I finished it. And like what little I saw, I was like, I'm into this. Like this is kind of working for me.
It starts pretty like not down to earth because the premise is pretty ridiculous, but it starts like a pretty kind of normal, like kind of weird, just normal thriller sort of thing, mystery. And as it goes on, it gets way more
Okay.
Richard Kelly esque.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but by the end, you're like, okay, yeah, that's a Richard Kelly movie for sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, I should watch. I, girlfriend tries to discourage overuse of shoulds. It's a bad habit of mine. But it would be nice to know what Donnie Darko actually is, rather than just be like, "Oh, I've heard of that one."
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, good picks, Brad. Boogie Nights. I like I said, I don't own it, but she actually is kind of excited. Like the girlfriend wants to watch that one because I've hyped it
Hmm.
up so goddamn much.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, Okay, so I'm going to take the single here. Go away, Brad. And we'll proceed to my speed round. I'm sorry, Brad. I will try to be fast. Apologies ahead of time. So I have here a steelbook, not a thing that I have very often on my shelf. It was the only way I could get it, so that's how I got it. Of Oliver Stone's Platoon. which I'm not like a war movie fanatic, but my dad was in the Vietnam War when he was very young. He wasn't shooting at people, but he was definitely getting shot at, and it was kind of a pivotal moment in his life that he's still, attending VA meetings and stuff over. I grew up with tons of stories about it, and it's only through the power of film and like literature and stuff that I'm able to kind of attempt to grasp what that experience was like for him. And Platoon is, it's often been said, it's a very fictional story. Like it's the story of the entire war condensed into a very short time, like period of time, and piled on top of a single platoon of soldiers. So it's basically like the war in microcosm, and as such, it is like a very, for me anyway, and I presume quite a lot of people of my generation, it's kind of a baby's first Vietnam kind of movie in a lot of ways. It's a very good introduction to what the thing was. Clearly, it's grossly complicated, impossible to unpack. But yeah, that movie kind of was important to me, especially early in life. My brother too, especially my brother. In fact, it was kind of through him that I got to see it, and it would be nice for the girlfriend to see it because it's like, why why my dad's all fucked up. It's not just because he's from Philly. It's like that's a big part of it, but it's also there's some other shit that went down too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's on the list. Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners.
Ooh,
Fuck,
that's a good. I should add that to my drawer. That's a good
yeah,
one.
yeah. This is a drawer pick.
Yeah,
this
that
this
is
has been
a.
in there.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the Gyllenhaals, or one of them anyway, I love this movie. I've seen this movie many times, and it never loses its dramatic punch. Just the something about the way Villeneuve, the way his films are edited and constructed, his use of kind of similar, I guess, to your like what you were saying about Dario Argento about things being in plain sight. The way he structures those reveals throughout the movie is kind of masterful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Very good movie. Maybe a bit of a tough sell though, because the girlfriend does have issues about child endangerment. Like that is a thing that puts her in distress, and not in like the I'm engaged because I'm enjoying it, but I'm engaged because this is upsetting me. Thankfully, that's like a, if I'm being honest, it's a minor part of the movie, but that might like flip her out a little bit. But it's so damn good. It's so damn
Yeah.
good. Similarly, I also have Sicario, but I'm gonna have to knock some things over to hold it up. So apologies. Yeah, I also have Sicario. Only reason I hold it up now is because from the same director. Would also love the girlfriend to watch that, although that one might upset her in different ways, just because of the way Emily Blunt's character is handled in that movie. Is really, really like fucked up. Where it's like
Mm-hmm.
she's a passenger, and you, the audience, are kind of in her boots throughout the whole thing, and it's a very strange vibe. Um, Day of the Soldado is not in the drawer. Aren't
That
they
was a
making
Black
like
Friday
another
pickup
one?
for me.
Aren't they making another one?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Fuck me. Like I had a conversation with my buddy on the couch the other day about why does this exist? And it's like, oh, it's because a lot of people saw that movie for all the wrong reasons. um,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not going to get into it live and on the air, but you know what I'm alluding to. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, hobo with a shotgun. No, that's a joke pick. Rambo. On the subject of the Vietnam War, First Blood is worth watching. Probably, I don't know if I could sell her on the other ones, but Stallone, she knows, is kind of like a, again, say what you will about Stallone as an actual human being. Yes, all that business, but as an actor, growing up, he was kind of like a projection of my dad. So Stallone, we were a Stallone household because of that. Rocky was kind of like my hero when I was a kid. Rambo, not so much, but most of those Rambo movies are all right, if you brush the politics aside, which is very hard to do because they're kind of joined at the hip. My Neighbor Totoro. Tonari no
Mm.
Totoro, Totoro.
Mhm.
One of the better Miyazaki films from that era. Probably the first one I saw, as was the case, I imagine, with a lot of Americans. My mom took me to the theater when I was very young, at a rinky-dink mom and pop theater, to go see that movie, and it's a special one. Very easy sell for a couple's viewing. It's just cozy, man.
Yeah.
Um, Gladiator. A lot of people would characterize this as lesser Ridley Scott, but damn, the things it does well, it does so damn well. Like as far as crowd pleasing cinema goes, it does a lot of good stuff. Um, Goon. Can't have an episode without talking
Guys,
about Goon.
always finding a reason to bring out Goon.
I am the strongest champion of Goon. And what's goofy about that, Brad, is that I'm not a hockey fan. I'm from a region that doesn't give two fucks about hockey, although they like to claim that they do now because we now have a team. It's called the Kraken. A lot of people like to cheer for the team that's brand fucking new. But yeah, I'm a strong proponent of Goon, even though I don't have any hockey culture in my veins. But yeah, Goon and Goon 2. Gonna make the girlfriend watch it. It's gonna happen. Just because it makes me laugh, damn it. And it's basically a secret boxing movie, which, if you've been listening for any length of time, you know is a big deal to me. John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China.
Mm.
Son of a bitch must pay. Just so many references. Hollow, fuck it. like so many references and just so much random bullshit. And also just the score. Just picturing little John Carpenter just bopping around on his synthesizer and on his guitar, just like jamming out a score, watching his own movie. That has to be that, like, the big dick energy in that room. Just like, I'm watching my own movie and scoring it at the same time. I'm rocking out to my own movie live.
You gotta show her his new TV series, Suburban Screams. Have you checked it out?
No, I haven't. What's
Yeah, it's
that?
John Carpenter's got a new series out on Peacock.
Peacock? I just
Yeah.
got Peacock because I wanted to watch Survivor Series, a wrestling event.
Oh, there you go. You can watch Suburban Screams, the new John Carpenter series.
I will
It's
do that.
terrible. It's terrible.
I'm sure it is. He's been out of the saddle for quite a while. I did just start watching The Continental the other day.
Mm. Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I'll probably finish that next couple weeks or so. It's all right. Uh, Godzilla versus Biolante. My vote for perhaps the best Godzilla movie of its
Mm.
era. Probably top 5 best Godzilla movies of all time. This is one of the good ones, Brad. I know you're not a Godzilla expert or obsessive like I am, but this one's special. This one I would very, very, very strongly recommend. And I have other picks, but the last one, I'm not going to rattle through all of them.
You got a big drawer?
I do. I'll just, on the subject of Godzilla, I'll also hold up Shin Godzilla or Shin Gojira. Just because I'm going to be seeing the new Godzilla movie 2 days from now, Godzilla -1. It's special, like, early release event in the States. Very, very, very hyped for that. But this is Hideaki Anno's Godzilla film. And the nickname in our household is Bureaucracy Godzilla. The girlfriend doesn't know what that means, but I'm really excited to show her that. But I'm also kind of dreading it because the subtitles in that movie move lightning fast, which is a problem unto itself because we've talked about this, Brad. Your significant other, does she have control of the pause button on the remote?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. see, that's my preferred method of watching. But the girlfriend, she's really big on making sure she's got the plot. Like I said, narrative, characters. That's why she's here. She's really big on. Can you back that up? Can you back that up? It drives me nuts. It's such a small thing, but for some reason, it just makes me want to freak out. But this is despicable to me. I should drop that on her. See how that works.
Yeah.
Shin Godzilla is, because of the speed of the dialogue, might necessitate some rollbacks every now
Be
and
a
again.
lot of rewinding. Yeah.
Kind of dreading that. But on top of that, her work, which I'm not going to disclose what she does or where she works, but I'll just say that some of the humor that comes out of the movie very organically with how the Japanese politics and how their like office politics work in that movie might strike a little too close to home and might give her anxiety. Like it might really piss her off because she'll just be like
Oh.
screaming at the television being like, why can't we just do it?
Nice.
Very, very,
Yeah.
very good movie though, and I have hyped her up on it. She does want to see it, but I have warned her ahead of time. Like this might upset you for unexpected reasons. Nothing to do with the monster. Anyway, that was quite a few titles for our partner picks on this edition of Tales from the Shelf. So now comes the part of the show where we say goodbye. But before we do, I'd just like to say thank you for joining me today, Brad. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for poking me about scheduling this because I'm always happy when we can get this in before the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, before we go, would you care to let our listeners and hopefully viewers know where they can find you and your super awesome podcast?
Well, thank you, Trevor. It's the Cinema Speak podcast. We're anywhere you listen to podcasts like iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. Find us on Twitter or X at the Cinema Speak, Instagram Cinema Speak podcast, on YouTube as Cinema Speak, and just find us on the web at cinemaspeak.libsyn.com. All
right. And yeah, I have to assume you got some Black Friday picks. Potentially, like, I'm actually kind of shocked that you wanted to do this today because I'm like, isn't that going to eat into your Cyber Monday time, Brad?
I've been doing a little, vinegar syndrome refreshing while we're talking here. Don't worry.
All the whole time I'm talking, whenever Trevor has the single, Brad is just clickety clacking, refresh.
Yeah. No purchases have been made, but maybe a few things added to the cart.
All right. Well, I really hope to hear about it on the show or on your YouTube or whatever you end up doing with it. All right. But as for myself, obviously the show is catching up on cinema. You are, in fact, watching it and or listening to it right now. So I hope you know what it is. But yeah, you can find all of our Catching Up on Cinema content collected on our website at catchinguponcinema.com. You can also find us on the social medias in the form of the Instagram at Catching Up on Cinema, as well as the Twitter /X at Catching Cinema. So feel free to hit me up at either of those. And the podcast is available on pretty much every platform you can imagine, including Bitcade. So fucking Google it. And that being said, thank you so much for listening and or watching. And we will catch you next time. Say bye-bye, Brad.
Thanks
Bye.
again.